Hello, hello, and welcome to subscriber episode 16 of the Late Challenge podcast with the two of us. As always, thank you, as always, for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing. As you know, we couldn't do any of this without you, so we are very appreciative. We thought this week, given the timing, given we're about to start another football season, which is mental in itself, and we haven't talked about footy for a while, we're just going to have a big chat about footy, about the Reds. Most of you are interested in that. Some of you are less interested, so we're going to have a little chat around other teams as well and just go wherever it takes us. And I thought we'd start, because you went to the last pre-season friendly, didn't you? In Preston.
Yeah, Preston, Darmstadt.
And we haven't talked about it. I mean, that's straight away. That's one of my things about this pre-season for Liverpool. That feels like we've played a few shite teams, and we usually play a bit. I know we played Munich, but
Bayern Munich.
And in fairness, I don't actually know, because I've reached that stage where someone could say to me, "Oh no, they won the Bulgarian league."
Well, Darmstadt were promoted to the Bundesliga, where but they didn't look any great shakes, to be fair, in the game, albeit that they still managed to score by playing a ball over the top, which is a recurring theme, isn't it?
Mean, we'll probably, maybe we'll start there. That's the most concerning thing for me, sort of looking at everybody involved, and we'll probably get into this, but the debates about who's to blame. I think that we're getting into those rabbit holes now, aren't we? I think it's who is to blame for all of this. Some people obviously hate FSG, but I think there's more people questioning Klopp now and the backroom staff and stuff like that. But I mean, John Henry and Mike Gordon and the rest of them have got nothing to do with the fact that you can just kick a ball over the top of our defenders' heads and seemingly get in on our goal. And you've been able to do that for ages. And we've had a full pre-season and doesn't look like anything's been done about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bad way to start a season, isn't it? I think, there's lots of, lots of chat, as there always is, about the Reds online and all that. And there's lots of, why are you negative? I'm positive. I'm looking forward to the season. Why? And, as ever, everything's sort of valid, really, I think. So, if you're worried about the season ahead, that's absolutely valid. If you're excited about it, also valid. And I'm both, I think. I'm looking forward to getting back into the ground, to getting back in the routine of footy being in my life. I'm excited about it. I've enjoyed sort of ramping up me media consumption, if you like, and that kind of thing. But unfortunately about Liverpool, I think the negatives, well, let's put it another way. I think there are more questions than answers right now. I think it's probably a good way to put it. So, we are top heavy. We are heavily loaded in terms of attack, and there's no problem there. I wouldn't say. We're scoring goals. Lots of the attacking players look like they're in form. We even look like we're doing some, cute things on set pieces. And you've got Szoboszlai now, who's, able to take set pieces, able to take corners, shake it up a little bit. We scored a couple of near post corners, which, looks like it was worked on. Looked like, you had the one that Mata flicked on and Doak put in. You had Diaz the other night at Preston with his magical flick, which, it was one of them moments where you're like, I love when you have conversations with lads who talk about how they could have made it, and then you see Diaz do something like that, and you're like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah,
yeah. So it is a worry, and I've just been doing it off the ball there, and I was saying on there, we were sort of talking through about how Liverpool might line up against Chelsea, and it's sort of like there are loads of ways they could line up, and there are loads of things they could do, and we're all sort of guessing a little bit. And even Klopp's quote about the Chelsea game, I don't think sort of fills you with joy when he's saying, "We'll come up with something for the Chelsea game."
Is that what he said? I haven't seen that.
Essentially, yeah, he said, "We'll come up with a system for the Chelsea game, but it won't be the season-long plan," which, again, you can sort of interpret that how you want. He could simply just be saying, we are going to get lads in, and when those lads are in, we won't be doing what we're doing against Chelsea. But equally, you kind of think, well, it's a bit shit that we're at this stage. And, I mean, look, you can't legislate. I don't think they could legislate for Henderson and Fabinho both deciding to go to Saudi, having receive these offers. But I don't know. I always think, and I've said this before as well. Couldn't things Couldn't things have been done in a way that favoured Liverpool a little bit more? Do you know what I mean? Like, couldn't they? Because you look at, and I know lots of people have sort of, gone, okay, well, Fabinho's legs were going a little bit. We basically got our money back on him. Makes loads of sense, sound. And that's the justification for that one. Henderson, well, he was starting to play slightly less minutes. He didn't seem happy about that. He wanted to go. He had that big offer on the table again, so justify that. But from a purely like Liverpool getting results this season coming point of view, which maybe should be high up on the agenda here, like those two lads played quite a lot in that 11-game turnaround at the end of the season when everyone was like, "Oh, we're doing all right now," and so. And like Fabinho, in terms of minutes on the pitch in the Premier League last season, is 5th for Liverpool. And Henderson was 7th. So, they played a fair bit of football for Liverpool, whether you like it or not, sort of thing. And it was obviously never the plan for them to go. And even Lavia coming from Southampton and stuff like that, he's 19. And like, I would suggest that the plan was you've still got Fabinho and you're working him in. You're introducing them into the side. You're not saying you are the de facto number 6 for the whole season in the Premier League, Europe and Cup competitions. But it kind of feels like that he will just sort of be parachuted in if they ever try and pay this extra couple of million to get him. And that doesn't feel ideal. Like I kind of think that, they should probably be going for him and try and get someone experienced as well. That wouldn't mind sort of not playing every week, if you like, in a similar position, so we've let loads of experience go. I kind of think maybe we should look to buy someone in, like you look at signings we've made in the past, like someone like, I mean, I know he wasn't the best player in the world, but, like when we got Klavan, for example, and like he was just an older head, able to come in and do all right. I think someone like that, in a defensive midfield role. I don't know who that is, by the way. I don't know who that profile matches, but I just think that could make some sense. Because as it is, we just seem to be linked with Lavia and that's it. And it's like, that's not enough. You know what I mean? We've let 7 go. 2 in so far. And even before all that happened, and we thought we had Fabinho and Henderson, we were saying we wanted lads in then. We were going for Tchouaméni or whatever last season, with all those lads in. So it doesn't make sense now to be saying, well, get Lavia in and that'll do.
Well, this is my big problem with it. Like, if you go back to the bigger picture, I think coming up to the end of last season, I think we were talking about this in other places, but like, this isn't obviously fact, but all the noises, there were echoes of, when Klopp left Dortmund and months or years later, whenever it was, the CEO said, we agreed we either needed to let go of Klopp or change the entire side. And Klopp and I agreed it was easier to let go of Klopp and get a new manager. And in hindsight, I should have got a new side. And that, like, he sort of said it like laughingly, but it was like, it's harder to get Klopp than it is to just change a load of lads and get him to coach them. And the noises coming out of the club and Klopp himself running up to the end of last season was that the opposite decision had been made. I'm going to stay and we're going to rebuild this side. And that's what I was looking at going, yeah, that means at least 5 players then, doesn't it? If you're rebuilding a football team, that's 5 players. I expected, a £250 million window plus anything we sold. But as you've just said, that was, I mean, in my head, that was 5 players with keeping your main lads, knowing that, Milner, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Keita are likely to go. But as soon as you lose Henderson and Fabinho, and as you said, one of them's your fucking captain, and they're both playing so many minutes.
Gone,
yeah. Well, as soon as that happens, you're like, well, okay, you need 7 now. And even if, like, you say to me, well, you're just guessing that it was 5 to rebuild the side, maybe they would say to me, because obviously I like to do this, the whole devil's advocate thing. What will Klopp say to me? Well, maybe he'd say to me, yeah, but we'd already done 2 of those 5, mate, because we'd already brought in Gakpo and Nunes. Or, we had Diaz last year. So we only needed 3, actually. Well, even if you only needed 3, well, now you need 5 because you've let Henderson and Fabinho go. And the thing I really dislike And Klopp buys into this. I was thinking about this last night. Do I prefer still, and maybe I'm coming back round to the old like thinking of this. Do I prefer a manager like Klopp who is, behind the scenes, maybe saying stuff to the owners or to the director of football or whatever, but in public, it's like it's a united front? Or do I prefer a Benitez who is quite happy to fucking stick the knife in, do you know what I mean? And do the whole, these need to give me more money. And I'm sort of getting back a bit to being like, I think I prefer Benitez. I prefer the Benitez approach to, if you're going to fucking screw me over, I'm going to say it in public, because then the pressure's on you. Because I think when you're as influential as Klopp is in our football club, maybe inputting a bit more pressure on them in public, if that is the problem, spending dough, maybe that would help. And because I can't believe, I'm jumping around here, but I can't believe that he would be happy with, if we bring Lavia in, you've brought those 3 lads in to replace the lads you had, plus Henderson and Fabinho leaving. And the bit I was about to say then, before getting sidetracked, was the thing I don't like, and they started doing this last year, is when they start doing like, it's like smoke and mirrors with the squad. It's like, no, we've got enough lads, because Curtis Jones can play 6. And Trent can play 6. Yeah. And you're like, fuck off. We already had Curtis Jones in the squad. You already knew how good he was. And this is the thing that annoys me. If you're saying that Lee Carsley has spotted something in Curtis Jones from the under-21s that yous hadn't spotted, that he could play as a 6 and could be world class. Because let's be clear here, we're not just talking about, can a lad play in a position? Of course, all of these lads, Curtis Jones could play right back if you want him to. He's fucking brilliant. But is he as good as Rodri as a 6? Is he as good as Declan Rice as a 6? Is he as good as Casemiro as a 6? Because if he's not, what's the fucking point? Because that's who our competition is.
But it's because, whatever we're doing at Chelsea, it ends up being like a stick and plaster lineup, and that's mad, and like the Curtis thing, I like him, I like the player, and I watched some of those under-21 games, and he was rightfully getting praise for it. But that's under-21, not the Premier League. It's a different level of football, and like I like loads of Curtis's attributes, but I know. I mean, I'm pretty confident that it's factual to say, if you sat him down and he's not there with the manager around him or whatever, and he's not on the record, and you go to him, do you want to play number 6? Fuck off. Have you seen what I can do? I'm an attacking player.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, he's going to say, isn't he, I've already fucking compromised who I was. When I was coming through the ranks, I was a fucking step over, put it in the top corner, lad.
Yeah, that was doing great. A bonus. Yeah.
That's by the way, we've all played footy. By the way, that's the most fun way to play footy. Being that lad is the most fun you can have.
And he's become the system player. But exactly. I just don't think, you compare. I know, like, there was 100% there was a drop-off with Fabinho. But equally, think about what he was like at his best and how much praise we gave him, how much praise the manager gave. The Linders used to call him the lighthouse.
Yeah.
The manager used to call him Dyson because he cleaned everything up. Do you know what I mean? Curtis Jones can't do that. That's not his skill set. I think he's very good at holding the ball, playing the ball, not wasting the ball. It used to be levelled at him that he chewed it a bit and held on to it for too long. I think he's improved on that. But he's not the fella who you're watching Liverpool, you're thinking, oh shit, they're on the attack, and then boom, Fabinho appears from somewhere and a leg goes out, and you're like, wow. Because that's the player that Fabinho was. And Fabinho used to play at right back, didn't he? He was a defender before he was a defensive midfielder. And he did all right when he dropped to centre-back, because guess what? He's been, that's what he's done. Whereas Curtis has started at the other end of the pitch and is working his way back. And it's just not the time for experiments, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, we've seen the margins that you can lose a league title by, heartbreakingly, on 2 occasions in recent years. And it's like, so you can't fuck about with those margins then. I still think with the squad we've got and the squad we'll likely have when the window closes, we're going to beat the majority of sides. But what I'm not so sure about is, have we got that thing where, we're able to basically, with almost certainty go, we're winning, and be like a machine like City are. And I don't think we have got that. I think as we're set up, you know, in terms of system and in terms of staff, if you like, I can see us just conceding daft goals and having days where everyone's like, fuck's sake. And, you know, we've got 1,000,001 attackers, and we'll cause problems to absolutely anyone, I think, because the range of attackers we've got and the different types we've got. You know, you've got like Nunes, who's like a battering ram with pace. You've got Doak, who can come off the bench now, and he's got this like real air of confidence, and he'll go at any fullback or centre half. And, you know, I love the sort of exuberance of him, and I'm excited to see him coming off the bench as a weapon. But, like, the lads at the back have got to do the business. You know, like, when we won the league, for all that people talk about Klopp and goals and 5-0, 6-0, whatever, when we won the league, we were tight as fuck at the back. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what, that won us the league as much as the attacking lads. Do you know what I mean? You know, you talked about, then we were talking about like you literally couldn't get past Virgil van Dijk and things like that, and like, you know, that halo's fell a little bit now. He's still a good player, obviously, but we're not talking in those terms anymore. And so you know, it just worries me. Like, I mean, I think, you know, some of those that have departed, if you put it into context, like, you know, like Milner only made 7 starts in the Premier League last season, 913 minutes in the Premier League. Oxlade-Chamberlain only made 335 minutes. Naby Keita 3 starts, 293. So, you know, those things, you know, shrug the shoulders, sound. You know, you got Bajcetic, you got, you know, Elliott, you got all these players kicking around that I think, you know, can fill those gaps, Curtis included. But you've got to go and pay the money for an absolute top class midfielder, because one's left. You know what I mean? And whether it started faded or not, the side was built around them. And like, to be bringing a lad in who's 19, and okay, all the stats point to that he's got potential and that he can be on the same level as the likes of Rice and things like that. But he's still 19 though. Do you know what I mean? And like, it's such an important position. It worries me. And on the money thing that you mentioned, you know, we've spent 95, got 52 in this window. And everyone's talking about that, and rightly so. I see less people talking about what we're now saving on wages, because, you know, using figures that are on the internet. So, okay, maybe there's a level of, you know, how correct are they, but, you know, ballpark in it. So I did this last night. Fabinho, 9.3 million a year. Firmino, 9.3 million. Henderson, 7.3. Keita, 6.2. Milner, 3.1. Mello, fuck's sake, 5.7. Yeah. And Oxlade-Chamberlain, 6.2.
You got to fucking hell. It's funny when you stop and think about something like that, isn't it? He got £5.7 million last year as his wages.
For 15 minutes or whatever it was. Yeah.
I'd have done that role for half the price.
His agent's fucking quality, isn't he? Yeah. So that's best part of 50 million quid. You know, that and okay, the 2 lads that have come in are on wages, obviously, but they're not on top whack from what I've seen. And so what I'm saying, you know, there's big spaces there in the squad ready, and I don't know, it just doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? There's loads of stuff to be worried about, and like, I can see loads of people saying, oh, negativity when other people are talking about these things, but I don't know how you don't talk about them. Even like the sporting director, you know, it just seems like a little bit mad. Like, loads of people said, well, he jibbed footy, and like he was kicking around in his house in Ibiza. And now he's like leading the way on Liverpool, rebuilding Liverpool on like basically a temporary contract. Loads of people are saying like he's a bit of a, you know, he falls out with a lot of people and all this, and he's a bit cantankerous and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, so is this defo the fellow we should have then? Because you've gone from like, you know, one sporting director for 6 years to 3 in 12 months. And like loads of other staff behind the scenes left as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know, like various technical analysis staff and all that. So how can you not be worried about it? I get that it's a rebuild, and I get that, you know, clubs, teams have transitions, and unfortunately we saw that Man United managed to do it under Ferguson a couple of times and things like that. But equally, like, you know, you're allowed to be worried about this, I think, because there's plenty there to be worried about. It's all, you know, all well and good having like all the firepower in the world at one end of the pitch, but if we can't keep the door shut the other end, well, that's a huge pressure and a mad way to try and win matches on the regular, isn't it?
Yeah, well, there's loads in all that, isn't there? Like on that last point, we all know, like those of us who supported football for a long time, forever and a day, like going back to Shankly's era, yeah, everyone knows to win league titles, it's built on a defence. Like the first fellow who pops into my head when you say that is Kevin Keegan, Joey's Newcastle side. Like I would love it if we beat you. Like one of the most entertaining sides you'll ever see. For people who are like too young to have seen that side, go back and watch clips of them. They were unbelievable, weren't they? Like the footballers they had in their side, just Newcastle fans back then. So like as an entertainment spectacle, like those 4-3s we had with them, 2 on the back. You're just like, fucking hell, what? That is footy at its best for entertainment. But you're never going to fucking win the league.
Yeah, and you never forget like Keegan like literally slumping over the
yeah. And guess what? Neither of those sides won the league.
I know.
We just fucking beat each other up while the fucking team with a solid defense went and won it. And look, this is my big thing about even when you're talking about Curtis Jones playing as a 6 and stuff like that, and everyone raves about Guardiola and he says the influence he's had on the game. But I think Guardiola's done a bit of another magic trick. I think he's done a bit of a magic trick on everyone. He's pulled a fast one. He used to bang on about his dream was to have 11 midfielders. That's his dream side. And then he came to the Premier League and he looked at it and he was seeing how he could win the Champions League and the league in the same year. How does he win a treble? And what did he start doing all of a sudden? It's mad how few people talked about this last year. And if it was Sam Allardyce doing it or Roy Hodgson, everyone would have banged on about it. He played loads of fucking centre-backs. Yeah. And he even converted the centre-back to play in the 6. So he could have more centre-backs on the pitch. And what's he done this summer? When he's lost Gundogan and he's lost Mahrez, he's gone and spent 77 million on a fucking centre-back. So what does that tell you about his priorities? What he's figured out? And he's held aloft as the genius of modern football. And he's going, you need defenders, lads. If you want to do all this fancy stuff, that's great. But you need defenders, you need the ball, you need lads who want to stop the ball going in your fucking goal, and you need lads who want to get the ball back off the other side. And I've said this before, but at any level of football, just think about whenever you've played with other lads. Most people have got almost like an internal default setting one way or another. I was always a default defender. Like my instinct was always to cover the goal for whatever reason. Like I was really good at if a goalie made a save, being the first to the ball and getting rid of it. Like my instincts were like the opposite of a striker. But if I was doing the same at the other end of the pitch, I couldn't score goals. I wasn't as good as it. I'd play with other lads who, in that position, they wouldn't react to their own goalie making a save. And you see that at the highest level of footy. So you can try and convert him like to Curtis Jones into a number 6, but he's not going to be as effective, exactly as you said before. He's not going to be as effective as a lad whose default mentality is defence. He's not going to be, because his default mentality is attack. But so he's constantly. He did it the other day in a game. Actually, like he was already. We do this a lot in our game. He's already anticipating us winning the ball, so he's 5 yards ahead of the ball, and then it leaves a massive gap because you didn't win. You didn't win it.
That's
and then
what Trent does, isn't it? That's what Trent does,
because he's an attack-minded player.
And he was converted to fullback to get him into the team. But ultimately, from a child learning to play footy up until when he was converted, he was in midfield. And so I don't get why he hasn't sort of tried. I know there's like fleeting moments in pre-season, if you like, but he hasn't tried. Like on Sunday, he's saying he's going to work on something and have us ready, and it might be a system that we use then, but not all season. Well, couldn't Trent just actually be in midfield and we just play like Gomez, our fullback, and have an actual defender there? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, controversial, but like I don't sort of get why he hasn't tried that anyway. Because I mean, when we were all pairing about Trent moving into midfield when it was at the end of last season, and that little mini run and how effective he was there. And yet, equally, we were still saying, but he looks dodgy on the turn. He looks dodgy, defending. So take the defending out of it then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And play a lad who's played fullback and centre half for years, our fullback and see what and I worry about Liverpool in terms of the start we've got as well. You look at last season, and like we start off, don't we, with we beat City and we all get excited after the Charity Shield. And then we go and get, walloped basically by Fulham, and we're lucky to get a draw. Get bullied by Fulham. Then it's we draw with Palace, don't we, at home, and then we're beat by Man United away. And by Christmas, we've lost 6 all comps. We've lost 4 in the Premier League. And that's done. The Premier League's done. You're not winning it. And they knew it. And I think, you saw like a miserable looking squad and a miserable looking manager, basically. And I look at our fixtures, for this season. Obviously, Chelsea away. Like, Chelsea are mad themselves. Like, you know what I mean? Like, their midfield is wild in itself, but equally they've still
I've got
lads
no idea who their team is now, by the way. Like, I've been saying all of like at the end of last season when they got Pochettino. I'll learn how to say his name properly one day. They'll be boss. But then another one, we're going to talk about this, like other clubs, which I think we always forget about, don't we? Who's that? What is their side? Like,
they brought in Kunku, didn't they? If that's how you say his name, to have a striker, and then he's injured.
He's injured, yeah.
But like I've heard some of their fans saying, well, our midfield mad, and they're saying they need to sign a midfield, and they got like the likes of like Conor Gallagher and things like that in midfield who, what we just saying, he's not a lad who's going to be like, in the trenches for you, is he? Do you know what I mean? So you saw, I think it's like, goals at both ends, this game as it looks on paper anyway. But, so that's a tough game anyway. Traditionally, Chelsea away. We've got Newcastle away early doors. We've got Villa at home. I think we've got Tottenham away in September, I think. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's hard games early on. And I'm just worried that, for all Klopp's been trying to bang the drum for positivity. And, he did that interview, didn't he, which everyone liked, where, and then there's the stuff that sort of creeped into the papers about, yeah, it was a negative place to be last season, but now it's all positive again and we're all flying. But, I'm sure, and I'm sure he didn't mean it this way, but have you seen Van Dijk's quotes
From
where he's sort of
yeah.
saying, and he, he's saying himself, I understand why people have doubts when we've lost the captain, the vice captain, and we're not playing that well defensively. And you're like, I get it, Virgil, but it's not that inspiring.
Yeah. But it was like he tried to be inspiring, wasn't it? It was like, but I'm still excited. And you're like, just don't say the first bit, mate. Just don't. And look, we all know it. But sometimes, like, I obviously, like, the thing that popped into my head, like the Braveheart speech, when he's like rousing a fucking rabble to try and win a fucking fight that they're massive underdogs for. He's not there, is he? Going, well, I mean, I know we've all got our doubts about this, lads.
Yeah, I've heard they're quite good, but give it a go.
Yeah, we'll have a pop at them. I'm excited. Are you? It's like, just leave that bit out.
Yeah, just nice to have a battle, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've had a few weeks off, haven't we? Everyone's a bit bored. We need to get back in. So yeah, but this is my bit. I said this to you after the main show the other day, and part of me is like, oh, I don't want to start saying this out loud because I'm doing that thing where you're like, oh, I get to be right if it's right, but it's one of those things you don't want to be right about.
Oh.
But it's not beyond. I don't think it's not even not. I think not beyond the realms of possibility is too generous. I think there's a reasonable prospect the Klopp doesn't last the season, either because he does what the Wolves manager's just done and walks, or because the wheels fall off so badly that the owners have to do something. And I think things like that coming up from Virgil worry me more because clearly Virgil's worried. Do you know what I mean? Like, think about him. You said before, like, last season he wasn't the player we're used to watching. But how many times last year must he have been like, fucking hell, lads, give me a chance? Do you know what I mean? There's just lads running straight through the middle of our pitch, straight at me now. That when I was Superman before, I had an amazing midfield in front of me. Klopp said himself the other day about Joey tried McAllister in the 6, and he said something like, I saw a little quote, he said something like, if we play compact, he'd be good there, but nobody can play there if we're not compact. And you're like, Isn't that up to you though, mate? Aren't you coaching them? Or
Yeah,
how are
and
we being compact
Virgil
then?
said that. What we're criticising Virgil for as well. He said, and we've read this so many times by defenders over the years, haven't we? But he said like defending's not just about the defenders and the goalie. And like, he talked about the long ball over the top. Well, stop the long ball over the top then. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, why aren't we as good at the pressing then? Why aren't we as good at stopping that? Well, personnel, you would have to suggest is part of it, isn't it? And I don't know. I just find like the uncertainty worrying. Obviously, I mean, like it just feels like it could go anyway every week. Do you know what I mean?
That's my thing, and that I think like finishing that thought from before that I think the problem is if you've got doubts in the senior players' minds, and then the season starts badly, and we know what the fans are like anyway. Like, and I said to a mate the other day about that I theory about Klopp, and he was like, "Nah." And I went to him, mate. There were grumblings last year by more people than we've seen before, and it doesn't take much for those grumblings to flip into get him
Klopp
out.
himself looked sort of beaten at one point, didn't he? And
Yeah,
was like really pissed off and really spiky and
yeah.
stuff like that. And
Because
then
it is different, isn't it? Like, think about it. I was thinking about this the other day. Him coming in fresh from a break after Dortmund as this new, like, breath of fresh air, this amazing, charismatic character, fresh, new challenge. No one had heard him before. So he gets to do all his best lines, doubters to believers, and all of that. It's not the same. He's basically trying to do the same again, having already had the history he's had. And you're like, my concern is that, the build up we got last time, will he be given the same build up? Do you know what I mean? Like, for us to win the league last time, he went, give me basically year 4. So if this is year 1, is everyone going to give him that time again? I don't think we will.
Well, it's not the same environment either, is it? You got Newcastle who can spend money now. You got Villa who can spend money and have got a good manager and had a good ending to last season. And you'd expect them to be decent this season. So to me, it looks like it's getting harder.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not only, it's as hard, it's always going to be as hard can be anyway, challenging Man City. But now it's also getting harder to just, tread ground, if you like, to just sort of stay in the top 4, because there are more sides. There's an argument to say, United will be better, although, I thought the hand was a bit overplayed on them last season. I don't think they were as impressive as some people were making out, and I still feel like they've got problems, but we'll see. Arsenal, I think will still be decent. We'll still be up there. Like you said, I was like you in that I thought, well, Chelsea, you'll probably turn that round and they'll be a bit of a force. But currently, I'm still not sure, because it still feels like the tactic is throw loads of shit at the wall and see what fucking sticks. Like,
Yeah.
which I don't think is ideal. So I think that might take some time. But Tottenham one day, could be half decent perhaps. I seen a funny clip last night, made me laugh. It was they played Barca, didn't they, in a friendly with Tottenham, and someone had, like, I think it was that Max Rushton had uploaded a clip saying, like, about the football they were playing or whatever. And all it was like they passed the ball from the back to the front, but that was it. It didn't end with anything. And some lad who's a Liverpool fan who like, I follow him, he'd quote tweeted it and put, "Yeah, good goal, that." and it just and to be fair, Rushton laughed at it as well, like, but that just shows you, doesn't it, like how miserable they've been. So they've got a new manager in. He seems, I don't know anything about him in terms of what he might be, how transformative he might be. I like him though.
I was just going to say, I like him, and if I had to guess, I'd say you'd like him.
Yeah,
the
he's
clips
boss
I
in
see
press
of him,
conferences.
Yeah, he's the type. I was thinking about this, like, if Klopp went, who would I have? Because my head, I think I said to you, the prediction about Klopp is actually based more on De Zerbi at Brighton. I think there's going to be a clamouring to get him, and there's an opportunity for us to be first in line, because he apparently, like, by all accounts, is really predicted to be like the very top.
Did you see what Milner was saying about him?
Oh no.
Because, like, Milner's obviously gone there, and he was talking about him, saying, like, he's impressed by him and impressed by his passion and all this sort of thing. obviously there's a link there, isn't there? In that he's only just left Liverpool. He loved Jurgen Klopp and all that. So yeah, he does seem to fit in those terms. I mean, it almost feels weird to talk about, life after Klopp when he's still here, and sort of feels almost disrespectful, doesn't it? It's like, I'm sure we'll be fine here on our platform behind the paywall and all the rest of it. But you can imagine if this one was public, some of the comments, how dare you doubt Jurgen Klopp, everything he's done for this club.
Yeah.
But it's just a sensible conversation about what might happen, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I remember. This fucking hell. This would be one that would get launched all over on the public internet. But I remember even back with the Hicks and Gillette days when it came out, they were in talks with Jurgen Klinsmann behind the scenes over potentially taking over from Benitez. And obviously, I was a fucking huge Benitez fan and did not want Jurgen Klinsmann as my manager. And I think they were getting that badly wrong, who they were looking at that maybe replace him. But the concept of having a chat with somebody about becoming your new manager, if you're thinking of sacking this manager, that general concept, I was all right. Because you're like, what do you want them to do? Whenever a club sacks a manager and they don't have any, like Leicester did it, didn't they? Sack Brendan Rodgers. And then you're like, who are you bringing in, lads? And like, don't know yet. And you're like, sorry, you've just sacked a very good manager and you don't know who you're going to bring in. And they're like, yeah, but I think most football fans don't join the dots that for that shit show not to happen, they have to be talking to another manager whilst your manager's got his job. That's just the way it is.
And surely that's just a well-run football club, isn't it? Like, or a well-run anything, where you're thinking about every scenario and you're having some kind of plan should that scenario unfold.
Well, it goes to the director of football point you made before, doesn't it? We'd done succession planning from what was his name? The first guy, computer guy, to Edwards. Julian Ward, Edwards to Ward. And then Ward, obviously, they expected Ward to just be there then for years. And he surprised them by saying, look, I don't want to do this. I'm getting off. And then their succession planning there was, do you know anyone, Jurgen? And Jurgen's gone, well, I know a lad from Germany.
I mean, the Ward thing's weird though, isn't it? Like, obviously, like, they put out why he's decided to do it or whatever, but it's still weird. Like, it's still, you can't help as a fan go, is that the true story? Is there something we don't know about? What's gone on here?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And, it's a bit, there was a little bit of that, I thought, with like Carragher's comments. It sounds like he's alluding to something, but not saying it.
I was going to say that before about Carragher's comments about Klopp getting more control behind the scenes. That one.
Like, what is going on? And it's the stuff that we never know. I mean, I know for a fact that stuff goes on at all football clubs that doesn't get out there, that doesn't go up, because we treat them sometimes as though it's the government, as though like the public servants or something, and we have this like right to know what goes on, and we don't. No. And there's plenty of stuff that goes on that clubs keep under, and it never comes out. That's why, like, like managers' books and players' books and all that do well, because you find out loads of stuff, don't you, that you didn't know. Or you find out loads of stuff that, you sat here and speculated about, but you didn't really know. But then in 5 years, when like a book comes out, you go, see?
Yeah.
I knew that wasn't
and stuff, right. Not only do we not have a right to know, like we shouldn't know. Like the one that just popped into my head then, which is a mad story. And if you've never, for the listeners, if you've never read this book, Roy Keane's autobiography, I remember reading years and years ago. It's just fucking brilliant. Like, it's funny. Like, there's so much in it that you're like, oh my God. But one of his famous stories that he's told publicly since is about when he played for Forest and he gave the ball away and he walked in and Clough just knocked him out. Brian Clough punched him in the face, said, don't give the ball away. And like, even his Keane's version of the story was like, and what did you do? And he went, didn't give the ball away again. but like, I fucking reported him to HR. You can't punch me in the face. Imagine if he'd have come out and told that story at the time. The manager punched me in the face in the dressing room at half time, by the way. Like, that's just the stuff you can't say. You can't talk about this stuff. But there was, as you were talking then, and it's funny you mentioned books, because I think there will be a book one day about this, like this part of Klopp's tenure, that we don't really know what's going on, but there's clearly, no matter what they say, there's clearly something going on behind the scenes, because too many people have left for it to be a coincidence. And there have been whispers, haven't there, of like discontent of we're not happy with the way things have been done. It's changed type thing.
Yeah, there's loads of little things, isn't there, which add up into a, there's flux that you can expect, players coming to, their end of their useful lives as a footballer for Liverpool, and, you've got to move them on, and you've got to think about who's coming in after them. But, there's still, like the Ward thing's weird. Lads in analysis or whatever that, seem to have done a great job, or, seemingly leaving en masse a little bit. Even like Carvalho, like what's gone on there, like that all seemed very strange. Do you know what I mean?
And
like,
interestingly, no one really picked up on it, did they?
no.
He made that comment and no one really said anything. But that for me was a bit strange because I thought Klopp was renowned for looking after lads, even the lads who aren't really in his plans. But for him to say, he never really spoke to me, I thought that was a bit.
But I mean, I don't know that, like, we should. This is what I was saying at the start. Really, like I just think it's a shame, really, that. But at this stage, I was going to say of the season hasn't even started. It starts on Friday, but it's a shame that like all these conversations are taking place, and I think it's going to be hard for them. Like, imagine the pressure that's going to be on, or imagine the like the media, the fans, all the online stuff. If there's a couple of bad results early on, like it's going to get toxic quickly.
That's my concern, yeah.
And I don't see how they don't see that. And again, like there's a worth to that. So there's a worth to a feel good at a football club. I've always said that, and I always think that. And so again, factor that into like I don't think like Lavia saves the world, but equally I do think. We've been linked with them that many times. We put 3 bids in now or whatever it is. You got people publicly like Carragher saying like it's embarrassing. And look, maybe it isn't embarrassing, and maybe it's just a negotiation. And other clubs have protracted negotiations over players this close season. How long did it take Rice to rock up at Arsenal and things like that? But nevertheless, you must. I don't ever believe that conversations take place like between me and you, or between anyone involved in fan media, or even in the mainstream media. I don't believe the same conversations don't take place somewhere at Liverpool. Surely they do. Surely like a man like Jurgen Klopp, who's been involved in football all these years, the people he's got around them, even, down to like, he's got the media managers, the PR people, his coaches, whatever. These are all people that have got unbelievable experience in football. Surely they're not saying, I mean, you've literally got like Virgil referencing that he knows people are doubting the team. You've got Jürgen almost saying like, trust us, so he knows what the vibe is. Like, surely someone in that team says, listen, we need to improve the vibe as much as we need to improve the team and our chances this season and the squad. Let's improve the vibe. Get that fucking done now. Just put 50 on the table. Get it done. We can show our lad holding up a shirt. We can do his little video, and everyone will just feel a little bit better. I mean, the flip side is that as soon as he gets done, everyone will demand another one, because that's how it always goes. But nevertheless, I just think we need him. We need a specialist number 6 anyway. Why are we haggling over such a small amount of fee in relative football terms when there's loads of positives out of it, including, like I'm saying, this vibe, this feel good. That vibe and feel good's not great at the moment. I saw a lad, maybe he's not representative, but nevertheless, I still saw it at Preston. Like, I was fairly, not asked about the Preston game. It's a pre-season friendly, and I've been to loads of pre-season friendlies, and I'm 47 years old, and I know what to expect, and I know that it's not really that important. So that's how I took it. And that, and even when Liverpool were scoring goals, I'm not leaping out my seat, am I? Because there's nothing really at stake. And there was a lad going absolutely mad, like so angry at the chances that Liverpool were giving up, and obviously the goal that they conceded. And I thought, if that's representative of any number of our fans, then not going to be great in the ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes back to what we started with. It's like, what was it like there? But that's interesting. I always think that's the interesting thing of the insight of being in the game, because I
Mm.
wouldn't see that. What, like seeing I didn't even watch the full game, but watching clips on the internet. But that's interesting, isn't it? Like a little insight into the mentality, and we know what it's like in the ground. Like it doesn't take much for people to start getting on the backs. And my concern, I think there's loads of bits around the Lavia thing, and it ties into the Henderson thing, and ties into stuff we've talked about in the past. The thing that baffles me about football negotiations, and obviously we never get to see what's actually going on, is sometimes they'll just go. So like with Sabozlai, is that what you say?
Yeah.
There you go. Nice.
Well then.
It's like they just went, yeah, he's 60. And the other
Well, there's a
side,
clause, wasn't there?
did he have a
Both
clause as well? Okay,
both
but
players, there was a clause. So
okay, so which seems to make them happy. It seems to make our team
yeah,
happy, doesn't it? There's a clause. But with Lavia, I know there isn't a direct release clause, but there is a clause in the background. There's a buyback clause, isn't there, for City next year for
yeah.
50. So
And also Chelsea bid 50 for him.
yeah, so Southampton have gone. He's boss. You all know he's boss. Everybody knows he's boss. We can sell him next year for 50. And okay, you can say to us, well, maybe City won't trigger that release clause. But as soon as Chelsea say 50, the conversation's over. So I don't understand then. And I'm talking to someone who has, like, I was literally trained in negotiation in top international law firms, and I've dealt with loads of negotiations and advised other people about negotiations. The worst thing you can do in any negotiation is go, if someone goes to you, we want 50 million, you go, we'll give you 40, and they go no. And then a day later you go, we'll give you 42, and they go no. And a day later you go, all right, we'll give you 44. Because the other side just goes, well, we know where this is going, lads. Like, you're just going to keep creeping up now. And once you get to 45, 46, the other side looking at you going, there's no way yous are walking away for £4 million. So give us the £4 million, because we don't need to sell them. I've always said this to people, and when I'm negotiating things for myself, the power is with the party that is happy to walk away and go, we're not arsed. Because they can Southampton can go, we don't need to sell them.
And that's
we
the
don't
problem,
need the
isn't it?
money.
Because
we'll sell them
it
next
doesn't
year.
it doesn't look like Liverpool fancy a lot of players at number 6 that are available, because you tend to hear about them, don't you, in one way or another. I know they have managed to sort of keep, one or two deals over recent years under wraps, and I've enjoyed it when they have done. Like Fabinho was a prime example, obviously.
Yeah.
But by and large, it just seems all the eggs are in this basket. And there's a bit of a link, isn't there, to a player in Brazil, I think, who's been mentioned one or two times.
Yeah, but that didn't that feel right from the start of like the negotiating tactic. We'll go and buy him then instead. And it's almost like Southampton went, lads, we've negotiated 3 deals with you in the past, or however many it is. We know your tactics. We know he's just a lad that you're pretending you want to buy now. So you will.
Well, it's a new sporting director on both sides as well, isn't it? So it's like you wonder how that dynamic's affecting it. Like what been trying to get his name right in case it's. So should I have a go? George Smacker, is it?
It's sort of like that. Just call him
Something
George.
like that. Yeah, Georgie lad. Well, he's got this temporary role. And like, you wonder how that feeds into the dynamic. Like, is he desperate to prove he's boss at this? Is he desperate to go back and say,
the cock on table negotiations? Yeah, I've
saved you
seen
3 million there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Maybe he's on a bonus, gets 10% of whatever he saves.
But this is this is the bits we don't know about. Is it like, I know that there are people permanently banging the drum about FSG, and like, I can argue 2 ways for them. I can tell you the good and the bad and the ugly. And I've written the same piece about 50 million times why they've been at the club. But, some people want to see no good and all bad, and, and vice versa. But like, as I understand it, like they set a budget and then leave them to crack on. Do you know what I mean? I know Mike Gordon's meant to be back involved again, because he took a bit of a backseat, didn't he, around the potential sale.
Yeah.
And then that hasn't happened. So apparently he's come back to the fore now and is involved in sort of pulling some strings. So when we're saying all the time FSG, like, okay, you can pull out the lists and say, like, Ten Hag spent this in this period, and Liverpool have spent this in this period. And look, I agree with loads of it. Like, I agree with that. Yeah, you know, Jurgen is a world-class manager, and having a world-class manager has meant we haven't spent as liberally as others, and he's been able to win anyway. And there is also an argument, and again, I think there's credence to it, that, you know, this model, if you like, is now not going to work because more people are coming to the table with money, like I mentioned before. But equally, you know, we've known times where Klopp's been like, I don't want to pay that for them. Do you know what I mean? And like he talked about, I think it was Van Dijk, wasn't it, saying he sort of had to be talked into the price by the rest of his staff. And like he even sort of, was it Mourinho, I think, pulled him on it. You know, he moaned, didn't he, once about paying whatever it was for players. And then obviously when he did that, he did it. Obviously Mourinho remembered and was like, hang on, thought Klopp didn't want to pay big money, you know, and that kind of thing. So I don't know, he does seem at the times, I think, Klopp, like, wedded to players, wedded to squads. There is an emotional side to him, obviously, and we love that. I love that. But, you know, is there a flip side to that sometimes where he's like, okay, Curtis Jones will be fine.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he will be fine, yeah. And like, you know, if you end up having to play him there as an emergency number 6, probably do all right. He's a good footballer, like you said before. But he's not a world-class number 6, and why aren't we trying to get one?
Well, like, and even on that, like, is it beyond the realms of possibility that you could turn Curtis Jones into a world-class number 6? No? Like, I could see a world in which in 2 years' time, Jones and Trent Alexander-Arnold playing a double 6 together, and they're unbelievable there. You know, it's just, we dominate football, we dominate possession because no one can get the fucking ball off us because we've got these two unbelievable players playing in a deep role. But it's not now. And football is played now. And this is the problem with all this stuff. Like, the whole, like, trust us, doubt us to believe us, all that. That was fine when he first came in. I don't think he's going to get the same grace with it again. And
well, you're creating problems for yourself, aren't you? I mean, you know, we're in the Europa League now. And so, you know, so that is like the stars fell now. And so, you know, the priority now is get back in the Champions League.
Yeah.
And we love it to
before,
be.
It's harder than it's ever been. Like, I've been saying for weeks now, and we went off topic talking about them before, that I think this could be the most competitive Premier League of all time at the top end. Because, like, I'd say at the bottom of the you know, the top 6 to 8 clubs, you've probably got Spurs, who've got this new boss manager who will have an impact and make them better than they were. And Villa, I mean, Villa could be pushing top 4 with what they've done and the money they've spent and the stability they've got and the manager they've got. I mean, we'll wrap up on this as we get to the end of the call, but like where do we think everyone's going to be? And I do think the other side of this is, I think we can lose sight of, we think other clubs are doing well more than us, and which other clubs have. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I was thinking about this, and maybe I just don't watch it as much as I used to, but Arsenal have strengthened well, I think, based on what they had last year. They feel very much, you know, people were saying this last year, but they feel very much like where we were under the start of the journey with Klopp. Don't you think? Like, they've built well, and he created that side last year that was exciting and young and vibrant. And it was like, yeah, you just didn't get over the line because you just needed a bit more. And they've gone out and bought a bit more. But they've they've paid the money where they
backed him, They've backed him, haven't they? I mean, you know,
Declan Rice, and he's 100 million quid, so just fucking buy him.
And loads of people said that's overpriced, and I would agree. You know, I think you're paying for the Englishness and all that kind of bullshit. But, you know, he's a good player, and I think it's a statement, and it's a statement that they back the manager. And you know, if you're an Arsenal fan, you're gonna be made up with that. And so, you know, that's why they're like second favourites to win the league. I mean, you know, Liverpool are like out to like about 8-1, third favourites to win the league. City are odds on. Do you know what I mean? So that's the gap that the bookies are seeing between us and them. You mentioned like top 4. I just got that up now because I hadn't looked at that for a while myself. So City are 14-1 on to finish in the top 4. Arsenal are 9-4 on. Liverpool 12-7 on. United 5-4 on. Then you've got Chelsea 13-8, Newcastle 15-8, Tottenham 17-4, and then Brighton 8-1, Villa 9-1, and then you're out to like 40-1 for West Ham, 50-1 for Brentford. But that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 clubs at like short odds, and then Brighton out to 8. Then after that, Villa 9. I'd actually say like that Villa one looks an all right.
As you were getting out to them, I was like, it's a good little bet that. And as well, it's interesting. And we often say this, the bookies don't often get it wrong, but I think it's very generous that to us compared to Newcastle. Like, on what basis are we going to just become third favourites to get top 4, and they drop to 5th favourites? Like they were. I think when Newcastle, it was a fluke last year, was it?
Not a fluke, but they've got the Champions League to contend with now, haven't they?
Isn't it? And look, on the basis of what I've just been saying, and it ties into a point I do want to make about the direct football thing, which fascinates me. People bang on about the Saudi money and all this, but how many players have they bought? Have they strengthened enough to deal with Champions League footy compared to last year? Probably not. I think if you ask Newcastle fans, probably not. But the last thing I want to say on the direct football thing that ties into what we were saying before, which jumps back a little bit, but we've talked about this in the past about, I think people forget that like one fella can only do so much in a day. And that's my problem with like Joe, the way the Lavia deal's done. It's like, if you're spending all your focus on negotiating this deal, you're not doing other deals, and selling players takes up time as well. So negotiating a deal to sell Henderson and Fabinho is taking up time that they wouldn't have budgeted for. And I was thinking about this last night, because I actually know one of the lads who's in the legal team at Liverpool, and I'd love to see practically how they split the like responsibilities. Joe, when they're doing a deal around the player, like how much is the director of football, and how much is just then passed over to the legal team to sort out? Because if it is mainly the director of football, it's mad that any club only has one. Because you can only do one deal at a time. So when you need loads of transfers, it's like, well, he's only one fella, so you need more. You need more fellas, more people to like.
He was at Preston, wasn't he? George.
Was he there? Well, I saw someone criticising that he was in Germany when we were in Germany, wasn't he? I saw someone.
He's got a gaff in Ibiza, hasn't he? And so I think everyone like seen a few things where mainstream media like BBC, Guardian, whatever, they'll do like a fans preview for the season type of thing, and they'll interview a fan of each club. And I read one of the Liverpool ones, I think it was on the BBC, and it was like, it was funny, like, do you know what I mean? And it was like, and we've just got this fella sat in Ibiza with his laptop trying to sign players for us, like
working from home.
which did make me laugh. So maybe they took that on board and said, listen, lad, just get, show up at Preston, take a few phone calls while you're there, like, because he was seen on the phone. He was seen vaping while on the phone.
Stuff like always makes me laugh. That like the fact that he's vaping will get legs, won't it?
I know,
and he's there vaping, and he should be buying us players. You're like,
yeah,
all right, lads.
What's he doing vaping? Just add 2 million onto that bid, will you? Fucking go in the vape shop and get him fucking Mr. Kipling vapes.
Yeah, we haven't got fucking time for this, lad. Yeah, but the other side of this as well isn't it? Like, it is still mad that we're having this conversation now, but everything could be completely different in 2 weeks by the time the window closes.
Could be different by the time this goes out. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
it's like, weird that we still have like this transfer window that carries on into the season.
Yeah,
isn't that so mad for everyone? I don't understand why anyone wants it. And I know there's a thing about timing it with other countries and all the rest of it, but I just think, wouldn't everybody worldwide, like especially across Europe, just agree, like that? Because my thing is this: everyone will work to the deadline anyway. So if we all do this, if I give you a month to do a piece of work, you'll take the month to do a piece of work. But if I give you a week, you'll take a week. So if you make the deadline the 31st of July, everyone will do the panic buy-in at the end of July instead of the end of August. Just move it forward.
Well, you got the other complication as well. I mean, fingers crossed. Like Liverpool have done their thing of this now, but Klopp mentioned it, didn't he, about Saudi's window closes three weeks after Europe's.
Oh, does it? So I knew
yeah.
I knew he said it was later, but 3 weeks. So they're going to still come fishing for players.
So we've got till September the 1st to box all this off, and then you could be like, okay, Sam, done. And then, they offer some absolutely wild fee and wild wages for one of your stars. And if his head's turned and all the rest of it, we know what can happen anyway. And then you're goosed, aren't you? What are you meant to do? You can't sign anyone. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, Mo Salah's gone and you're playing Ben Doak. No, Salah's agent nipped that one in the bud, hasn't he? Which is nice of him, considering some of his previous conduct. So,
well, it's funny, isn't it? Like when they want, they can do that, can't they? This is the funny thing about football, is when you're just like, just come out and say it, just come out and say it, just sort it out, just tell us, And I've seen whispers of this, and I mean, I don't know whether stuff like this, maybe the club leaks stuff like this to try and keep people happy, just to shut you up for a few weeks, like. If Mbappe forces his move through to Madrid are going to need to make money. So they're going to have to sell someone like Tchouaméni, and we could buy Tchouaméni then. And if you've got Tchouaméni by the end of August, everyone's fucking made up.
Oh, everyone will be made up, yeah, but I can't see that. I've seen that floated as a sort of, fantasy land end to the transfer window, but he's young, isn't he? As opposed to, a lot of the rest of Madrid's side. So he sort of feels a bit like, he's there, Lavia, if you like. Do you know what I mean? He's there, one that, the bedding him in, ready for when, all the Alberts that they've got in the side finally decide to get off to Saudi Arabia themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I'd be amazed if that deal got done. And even if they did that deal, I'm still like, are you buying any defenders though, lads? Because I mean,
well, that's the other thing, isn't it?
We've got a big issue here.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned this in the whole chat, which is mad. But, it's fairly most people are looking at it and saying, well, Liverpool haven't got a senior centre-half who's left-footed, which is a bit mad in itself. And then, you look at, the first choice defence is good and has won us things. And, you can't sort of fault that too much. But it's more that, we know that Matip, at his best is great, but equally, picks up a fair number of injuries. And Gomez has had his trouble with injuries as well. So, and they were looking at the lad at Chelsea, weren't they? But he signed a 6-year deal now, so that's not happening. So again, going back to what you're saying before about planning and lists and all this, Liverpool have got a scouting network as well as a sporting director. They've got people that work for them, full time looking for players. So there is a list somewhere. There is profiles of players. So why are we not getting anywhere with any of the others seemingly either? Do you know what I mean? Again, we know that Klopp likes the business done early because he said so. He says that he likes to work with the player. Whoever we're trying to get, why haven't we done it? And it does bring into question, have you got the right people behind the scenes? Is the budget too tight? Because, I know that's a favourite of so many people and apparently it doesn't get mentioned, but it's just one factor that, do you know what I mean? There are other factors that it could be as well. Could be the manager, could be the sporting director. We don't know and we can only speculate, but all in all, it's all sort of threading together to not look that great. Don't get me wrong, the Liverpool have got it in them, more than got it in them to go and win the first 5 games. And then, you potentially get people saying, well, you look a bit daft now. But all of the concerns voiced are concerns. I don't get how, just sort of weighing it up in a sort of, take the emotion out of it and just look at it and take the passion out of it and just look at it and say, well, they don't look geared to go and win the league, do they? Before Henderson and Fabinho went, my sort of stance on the forthcoming season, I was looking at it and thinking, do you know what? I think they've got it in them to go and do something. And like I was thinking about like, we win the league and then we drop off, don't we? And okay, we had some horrendous luck with injuries and stuff like that as well. And so we got 65 points, I think. But then the following season, we got 92, won 2 cups, in contention for the quadruple, all of that kind of stuff. Then we've dropped off down to 67. But then, obviously I was thinking, well, it's not beyond the realms, is it, that this group with a couple of additions can go all the way back up again? Because so many of them have done it before. But I'm looking at it right now and I'm just like, it's too many out and not enough in.
And well, I'm with you on that. But to end on a positive, I think, and this is where it's the same with everyone. The greatest strength is your greatest weakness. Where Klopp, I can imagine, would be talking on stuff like this is, and I think they gave him a new contract last year, didn't they, Joe Gomez? Like I used to bang the drum for Joe Gomez all the time. I'd be like, I can't believe he's not, England's first choice centre back. Like he's brilliant. He's a ball playing, centre half. At one point, him and Virgil van Dijk centre back pairing was unbelievable. Fast, good on the ball, dominant, front footed, and he just. He's had a lot of injuries and his form dipped and all that. But maybe Klopp's there going, yeah, but I back him to get back to world class. And if Joe Gomez became a world class right-sided centre half again, who can drift out to fullback to cover our hybrid right back, whatever, it answers so many questions and sorts out so many issues. I just think that's what we had last year, too much faith in. Last year, it seemed like I've got loads of midfielders. And you're like, sorry, you're putting faith in Oxlade-Chamberlain and Keita to play more than fucking 10 games. Where's this faith come from? Because we've got nothing to base that on. You're just hoping. And I think that's my concern. But to try and keep it positive, I think that's the upside, isn't it? That and in the seasons when we've been brilliant, like the season we went for the quadruple, everything went our way. Like we didn't get injuries and we kept players fit, and that can happen again. So we'll see. But let's wrap up because we're over the hour now. Little predictions. Go on. Where do you reckon we'll finish? Your face then says it all. That's the problem, isn't it? It's like,
I was saying the other day when we were talking about this, when we did Snowdon and all that, when we got back, we were having a little bevy. And like we were all Reds who did it, like, so we were having a little similar debate. I was saying I can see third, and I think I'm going to stick to that.
So what are you saying? City, Arsenal, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Who you saying fourth?
Well, I never want United to do anything, obviously. So I'm just not. Just to be a bell end, I'm going to put them back out of the top 4. And who can we put in? I don't fancy Chelsea. I'll put Villa in.
Oh, an outsider.
Yeah, I'll put Villa in.
Nice. Well, I'm optimistically going to agree with you. I think I am being optimistic, saying we'll finish third, which is sad because every year I'm the one saying we'll win the league, we can win the league. And it's sad that I'm like going into the season going, I think I'm being optimistic saying we'll finish.
But you never know. Like,
yeah,
I will still throw that
that's
in.
it. Like, that's the thing. My worst case scenario.
You can still go and buy some players.
Well, and also you win the first 5 games and you get that momentum. The other side happens, doesn't it? People start going again. Fucking hell, Liverpool are good. We've got a buzz about us. The ground's buzzing. Yeah. We know when we can get that going. Fucking hell, we're hard to beat.
I think though, with that. The problem is a bit like what you touched on before about Klopp and how many times you can sort of, bring things to life over and over again. Okay, like his group internally is changing, and so he can still, perform his magic on people who've never played for him before. I think what might affect the faith, if you like, is the behind the scenes stuff, the signing of players, the type of players we go for, how good we are at getting them in has now been a bit shit for a bit. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, you know, you look at Ed, like people were talking about making a statue of Michael Edwards and all that. Do you know what I mean? Because we went through a phase, didn't we, where we were unbelievable at signing players, at getting value, at getting good money for those going out the door and all that kind of stuff. Now we've been through a few years where it's not been as good. Do you know what I mean? And like, you know, you look at the sort of supermarket sweep shit signings like Mello, like that Davis lad who never even played for us, like Kabak, and it's like, you know, they're not, they don't look, they're not good examples, are they? They're like, you know, that looks like it isn't right, and then you throw in all the other stuff that we've already talked about, you know, the turnover on directors, you know, all these staff leaving behind the scenes. I think that affects the faith and affects the feel good. Bring it back to that as well.
Yeah, I think you're right, but we'll leave it there. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your predictions are. Let us know how you're feeling going into the season. And obviously, like we'll see. It's always that, isn't it? Like with football, we'll see in a few weeks. Yeah. We might be looking back at this going, God, we were being a bit negative, or we might be looking back going, I think we're a bit overly optimistic, to be honest. So yeah, let us know what you think. As always, spread the word. Tell people if you like this, if you enjoy it, share it with your mates. And we will see you back next week for the main show and another Patreon. Oh, and we'll be getting in touch with top tier subscribers for a producer show at the end of this week. That's overdue, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll be throwing that in at the end of the week. That's it. See you next week.